Hey, what's up? It's Gene Clark. This is Self-Development Quest, and this video may change your life. Who's the greatest salesman in the world? Who is the greatest salesman of all time? Let me tell you, you're about to find out, because today's book is The Greatest Salesman in the World by Mandino. We're going to jump right into the book, but I do want to say before I get started, I may butcher some of these names. I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to pronounce them correctly, so don't harp on me too much if I don't, but just go with it because it's the story, not necessarily the characters' names, that is the most important part. So the story starts out with Erasmus and Hafid. Hafid is currently the greatest salesman in the world, and Erasmus is his bookkeeper, accountant, business manager, something to that extent. And Hafid is getting older, and he's asking Erasmus, if we decide to liquidate all our assets, what are we going to be left with? And if we gave each location a certain amount of gold, how much would we be left with? And Erasmus gives him the information, and Hafid tells him, he said, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to siphon off some of the gold. We're going to give each of my individual merchants, because this has taken place thousands, well, let's say roughly 2,000, maybe 1,900 years ago. And he's telling Erasmus that he wants to sell everything. Each of his merchants, he wants to give them 5,000 gold pieces, and he's going to let them run their individual storefronts however they want. They can restock however they want, and that Erasmus is going to actually get 50,000 gold pieces, but he has to stay with Hafid the rest of his life. And after they liquidate, after he gives Erasmus his share, after he gives all the merchants their shares, he also wants to take half of the liquidation and he give that away to charity. And then he'll keep whatever is left. Now Erasmus starts to question this, but Hafid, shushes him and shuts him down. He says, no, trust me, you questioned me in the past, but it's always worked out. He's the greatest salesman in the world. He knows what he's doing. He said, but I need you to stick around with me. Oh, by the way, come with me. I want to show you this special room in my palace that's been guarded for all these years. So he takes him to the room. Erasmus has no idea what's going to be in there. Is it going to be gold, jewels? Who knows? But they go inside, and all that's inside this room is a trunk, and inside the trunk are some scrolls. And that is where we begin this flashback. Hafid walks to this window in the room, and he goes to this flashback to when he was younger like Erasmus. So we learned that Hafid was an animal caretaker for Pathros. Pathros was the greatest salesman in the world back in his day, and Hafid worked for him, but not as a salesman. And one day, Hafid worked up the courage to go to Pathros and say, I want to be a salesman. I don't want to just take care of these animals. And after some back and forth, Pathros learns that the reason Hafid wants to do this is because he's met a girl, and the only way he feels good about trying to ask the girl's father if he can marry her is if he's a successful salesman, not just an animal caretaker. And now Pathros understands, and he says, okay, let me give you a chance. We're coming up on Bethlehem. Take this robe, go there, try to sell it, and don't come back until you sell it. You owe me 1 silver piece. Anything you sell over that, or anything extra you sell this robe for, you get to keep as your commission. So 3 days goes by, and Hafid has been in and out of Bethlehem trying to negotiate. He's trying to sell this. He doesn't want to give it away. He doesn't want to gouge anybody, but he just can't get the sale done. And he goes back. He's sleeping on the outskirts of town in a little cave, trying to save some money. And he's a little bit down on his luck. He doesn't think he's got what it takes, but he thinks about the girl. He thinks about what it means, and he says to himself, you know what, tomorrow, day 4, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to sell this robe, I'm going to get it done. So he starts walking towards the end of the cave, and while he's there, he notices a couple and a newborn baby in a little manger. And the couple's very cold. They're not wearing anything, and he notices that the baby has been wrapped in their cloaks. So he decides the right thing to do is to take their cloaks off the baby, give it back to them so they can be warm, and he takes the robe and he wraps the baby in this robe. So at this point, I love this story. So I wish it was a true story. I digress. So at this point, he decides to just head back to Pathros's caravan and explain that he didn't sell it, he gave it away, he wrapped a baby in it. As he walks out of the cave, bright light in the sky, bright as day. And he says, it doesn't matter, I'm just gonna head back to the caravan and meet up with Pathros, explain everything. So he walks, catches up to the caravan, it's the middle of the night. And he gets there and Pathros says, have you walked all this way from Bethlehem? And Hafid tells him, yes, I did. He said, oh, you sold the robe, come in. And he goes in, he explains to Pathros, no, I didn't sell the robe. He explains what happened. And Pathros says, you know, you've had a star following you from Bethlehem. And I am viewing this as a sign. And years ago, when I was a young man, I came across a man on the side of the road who'd been beaten up and mugged. And nobody was helping him, but I decided to stop, help him, nurse him back to health. And what he gave me was a set of scrolls. And he said, these scrolls are only for me, but they're going to help me become extremely successful and become a great salesman. He said, the only thing is, you can never show anybody these scrolls until one day, one person will prove themselves worthy. Give that person the scrolls, and that person needs to know that they cannot show anybody the scrolls either, except one day when one person will prove themselves worthy. And that person, the person who Hafid needs to give these scrolls to, that person can share the scrolls with the world. So Pathros tells Hafid, he says, I need my camel boy the rest of this trip, my animal caretaker. I need him the rest of this trip. But as soon as we get back to the city, I'm going to give you these scrolls and I'm going to mentor you. So they get back to the city and it's a couple of weeks. Hafid visits Pathros and all of a sudden Pathros's health has just gone downhill. But he gives Hafid the scrolls. He explains the importance of the scrolls and how you need to start with each individual numbered scroll and study that scroll for 30 days and then move on to the next one and study that scroll 30 days, reading it 3 times a day, and the third time reading it out loud and really living in each scroll. So he explains all of this to Hafid and then passes away right afterwards. So Hafid leaves and he later goes on to become the greatest salesman in the world. Now Hafid leaves at this point in the book. It goes over and goes through all 10 scrolls. I'm going to come back to the scrolls and explain those a little bit more in detail, but I want to really continue with this story because the story is fantastic. So after you finish the scrolls, we get out of the flashback. We're back in present time. Actually, we're a few years into the future. Hafid is an old, feeble man at this point. Erasmus is still with him, still taking care of him. And Hafid has explained to Erasmus, I'm waiting for somebody. I'm waiting for the one who I need to give these scrolls to. And then one day, Erasmus sees out in the desert a man walking. And as he gets closer, he notices that his sandals are worn, his clothes are all tattered, he is just burned up from the sun. But he comes straight to the palace of Hafid. He's knocking on the door. He's asking if he can have a chance, just a moment, just a quick meeting with Hafid. It's very important to him. Erasmus finally gives in and he gets an audience with Hafid. And he comes in, he introduces himself. He says, my name is Saul, but a lot of people call me Paul. And I used to be a persecutor of those followers of Jesus Christ. But one day while I was out trying to hunt down all these followers, a bright light hit me, literally hit me. I fell off my horse. I was blinded. Jesus came to me and he said, "Stop persecuting my people." And one of Jesus's followers found him. He nursed him back to health. He kept him safe until his eyesight was returned. And that's when he decided to start preaching the word in the name of Jesus Christ. Now the problem was he'd been going around the Middle East for the last 4 years preaching and trying to convert people, but so many people didn't want to hear his message, and the Christians that he had been persecuting before all of this happened were afraid of him. So he just wasn't having a lot of luck. And that's why he sought out Hafid and the greatest salesman in the world. So Hafid is intrigued at this point, and he says, "Tell me more about this Jesus Christ. Tell me about his life." And Paul goes on to explain how Jesus worked miracles and how he took nothing of this world, but he gave everything. He then pulls out, this is my favorite part of the book, he then pulls out a piece of cloth and he throws it on the bed. Hafid's on his deathbed. He throws it to Hafid. He says, "This cloth is all that is left of him." Because when he was crucified, the Romans cast lots for his clothes, and Paul was able to go and track this down, and this is all that was left of him. So Hafid takes the piece of cloth. Oh my God, I have chills right now. He takes the piece of cloth, he turns it over, and on the other side of the cloth, he sees the symbols of the robe, the symbols of Pathros, the symbols of the maker of the robe, and he just knows this is the robe he gave away. So he asks Paul, he says, "Is anything known of the night that just chills, anything known of the night that Jesus was born?" And they said, "Oh yes, he was born in Bethlehem in a manger in a cave." And Hafid smiles, and he knew that this was the man he'd been waiting for all along. This was the man that needed the scrolls. He needs the scrolls to become the greatest salesman in the world, and he needs to share the scrolls with the world. What an ending. I love it. Chills. It's just fantastic. I love it. Again, I wish it was a true story. I really, really do. But it's still fantastic. And today being Ash Wednesday, I thought it was a great day, the start of Lent. I thought it was a great day to share this book with all of you. Let's quickly go back to the scrolls and then we'll be done with this video. There are 10 scrolls, and the idea is each of these scrolls you need to read 3 times a day for 30 days. And after 300 days, you will have gotten through all 10 scrolls. The idea behind it is that by doing this 3 times a day for 30 days, you're really going to encompass and live and make these scrolls a part of you. And the 3rd time, you're supposed to read it right when you wake up in the morning, sometime during the day, and then right before you go to bed. And right before you go to bed, you're supposed to read it out loud and really get it in your subconscious mind. Let it seep in while you sleep and really embody all 10 scrolls. And I'll give you the titles of each of the scrolls. Today I begin a new life is scroll number 1. And that's kind of the scroll that teaches you how to use the scrolls and how to encompass everything in your life. Scroll number 2 is I will greet this day with love in my heart. Scroll number 3, I will persist until I succeed. Scroll number 4, I am nature's greatest miracle. Scroll number 5, I will live this day as if it is my last. Scroll number 6, today I will be master of my emotions. Scroll number 7, I will laugh at the world. Scroll number 8, today I will multiply my value 100-fold. Scroll number 9, I will act now. I will act now. I will act now. And scroll number 10, I will pray for guidance. I'm not going to go through all 10 scrolls in depth, but I did want to give you my 3 favorite ones. My first favorite is persist until I succeed. We have to keep going. We have to persist until we succeed. We can't let any minor or major setback stop us from moving, from going forward. We must press on. We must continue. We must persist until we succeed. As Og states in the book, can I call him Og? I'm going to. As Og states in the book, we weren't brought into this world in defeat. Failure does not course through our veins. We must remove the negative words like quit, can't, cannot, unable, failure, impossible, and retreat. And we have to try and try and try over and over until we succeed. Because if we persist long enough, we will succeed and we will win. My next favorite scroll was I will laugh at the world. We have to learn to laugh. We have to learn to laugh at the world, laugh at ourselves. Don't you just look around and say, wow, we are all way too serious and offended by everything these days. We're not smiling enough. Smiling improves your mood, and laughing improves your mood. And not taking ourselves so seriously is really going to help us enjoy our life a whole lot more. The little things don't seem as big and don't seem as bad when we can put them in perspective. And so we just need to go out there and laugh a little bit, smile a little bit, enjoy ourselves, and stop taking life so seriously. The last scroll I want to share with all of you, my thoughts on it is I will act now, I will act now, I will act now. If you've been watching this channel for any amount of time, you have heard me say on multiple occasions, we cannot just sit here and read books and think that is the answer. And hey, I will tell you, I love reading books. I love listening to audiobooks. I love sharing what I learn from these books with you. But we can't just read, close the book, move on to the next one. Read it, close the book, move on to the next one. We've got to take what we learn. We've got to incorporate that. And it doesn't matter what you're trying to do. Whatever your takeaway is, if you're reading or if you're learning something new, if you don't use that information, if you don't use that knowledge you've gained, you're just wasting it. You have to act, and you have to act now. So don't wait until tomorrow. Start now. Start right now. Turn off this video. Not yet. Like, subscribe, share, comment, then watch it until the end, and then turn off this video and get out there and act. Go change your life. Go make your life better. Whatever you've been holding back on, go do it now. On that note, let me give you my favorite quote from the book. Failure will never overtake you if your determination to succeed is strong enough. Again, failure will never overtake you if your determination to succeed is strong enough. That is my favorite quote. That is what I'm going to leave you on. I love this book. It is absolutely fantastic. I think it is a great read as we head into Easter and we start our Lent season. Check it out. Let me know your thoughts. And if you've read it before, let me know your thoughts. Did you find it as awesome a story as I did? Did it give you chills? Let me know in the comment section down below. And please come on back and join me for the next book. He wasn't having a lot of luck, mainly because...